call the regular zoning commission meeting for Monday, December 6th to order.
Ready to go.
Are we all still in the meeting?
Where did Dave go?
And we
Who's Dave?
I think we
Yeah.
lost him.
Kevin, are you here?
I'm here. You want me to take over? He'll be right back.
Yeah, he's coming back. But why don't you take over while he's getting back on?
I don't want to do an Alexander Haig. Can't hear you, Diane.
I just said it was an old reference.
And for our old people, we know what that means.
Yeah.
Dave will know if he gets off mute. Dave, you're on mute still.
All right, as we all know, I'm a little slow today. We just did we get attachments? All I got was the meeting minutes or the meeting agenda.
Well, I didn't think I got it either. Supposedly it went out last Friday.
All
So,
right, let me look
Mike-
back.
Mike sent it to me again at Friday at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
All right, I'll look back and see.
So there was an issue with it because Dave had the same issue. If you use a Comcast email address, for some reason, Comcast wasn't accepting Outlook emails.
Okay, that
Anyway,
explains it.
so they didn't arrive until today. Anyway, now we've got the meeting called to order. I'm back here after Xing myself out. We have 5 commissioners and we have an alternate in attendance who can replace herself. So appoint Diane to sit in the open position.
Yeah, again, sorry about the bad timing. I
Yeah, no problem.
wasn't thinking about the fact that there was a meeting today and that today, so.
Well, it turns out that because of our charter and the state statute, you serve in your position until your replacement has been sworn in. So by those rules, you can replace yourself today, which is what's going to happen, or did happen. Okay, so the minutes of November 15th. Comments on the minutes?
I only saw one correction that's needed, Dave. Line 130, right near the end. There's some extra words in there that kind of need some attention. It's about Mike Doyle.
Yeah, we need to delete was his last time serving. So was his last time is duplicated. So if we could knock that out, that would fix that problem. One other thing is it's on 43. I said that the Public Act 2129 would go into effect on January 1st, 22. I don't think that's true. I think Mike corrected me and it didn't get corrected in the minutes. So if you could change that to 23, the first number in line 44 should be 2023. And on line 46, there's the use of the word verdict. I suspect it should be the commission votes a motion to opt out. It isn't really a verdict, I don't think. Anyway, anything else? Okay, motion to adopt the minutes is modified.
So moved. Kevin,
Kevin moved it. A second. Second. by
Dan's a second.
Ian. All in favor?
aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Okay, it passes 6-0 with no abstentions. Next order of business is continuation of application 2124 for the text amendment to opt out of Public Act 2129. Mike, do we have any more comments that have come in?
We had one additional comment from Reverend Kevin Winkle, or the senior associate pastor over the First Church.
Michael.
I'm sorry. That's the only additional comment that we received. In addition to, you have all the written comments that were received at the last meeting.
Okay. I did not see that when I looked at it today.
It's under, if you go to the application's new public comments, we just separated the two. So you have the batch that came in from your last meeting,
Right.
which is under the folder public comments November 15th, 2021.
Yeah, it was there on Friday.
Pardon me, Bruce?
It was there late on Friday when I was looking.
Oh, right.
Everything that came in.
Comments. Okay. I looked under the wrong folder. And it says that Kevin Weichel, senior associate pastor, is writing to support the expansion of ADUs, believes it's important to speak up when a policy change can benefit the well-being of vulnerable propositions. So he says 1,000-foot ADUs would greatly enhance the lives of the elderly, members of the intellectually and developmentally disabled community, and young adults. So do anybody from the commission have anything to say further on the ADU public hearing?
Well, I have to say I did my homework over the holiday. I was in Portland, Oregon.
Okay.
They have quite a few ADUs. They even have half lots now, and I stayed in one. And I just think it's I think it's a very positive thing. I just had a few kind of thoughts having stayed in one, though, and it has to do with the square footage and the percentage of a house square footage. These houses had fairly substantial ADUs, and I didn't find them offensive at all in proportion to the houses. And I think what we're seeing is compared to the 1,000 square foot of the proposal, that our 600 is really low. And then when you try and take a 25% of a smaller house, you're kind of penalizing a house that is actually the one house that needs more square footage. So an 1,800 square foot house can only have 450 square feet for an ADU, which is basically impossible to use that small a square footage for, if you were to have an elderly person that needed in-home care. It's not that much living space at all. So I'm just putting it out there that I had some second thoughts about our regulations as far as limiting the square footage. I mean, 800 might be a nice in-between. And I would almost feel compelled myself to go with 800 and not tie it to a percentage of the households for the reason that I already stated. If you can get it within the setbacks, like I said, they're all over the place out there, and they're really well done. There's privacy fences. They kind of organize the backyard, so you have a little patio area that's screened off. It looks like a garage most of the times, really nice. So that's just my 2 cents, having, like I said, experienced it up close and personal.
Good. Any other comments?
Well, Dave, I guess my thought was more along the lines of what to do from here, because if there's nothing, and apparently there are no more members of the public that are attempting to give us, share their thoughts with us, we should just close the public hearing. I don't see any need to keep that open for another meeting or another 2 meetings or whatever.
Okay,
And so I guess, neither my colleagues have thoughts. Now's the time, because I'll move that we close the public hearing.
Bruce, before you do that,
Okay.
we haven't seen if anybody that's on this call wants to add something to it.
I thought when Mike said there was no one else, that
Yeah,
meant
and
there was no
we
one
have
else.
we have an alternate who can speak. Apparently would like to. Melissa, go ahead.
As you know, I'm kind of passionate about this issue. I feel strongly that the ADU size, when we're talking about detached ADUs, I think that they should be tied somehow to the lot size. It's a whole lot different to put 1,000 square foot detached ADU in an R15. I live in one, I know, than it is to put one in an R40. And I'm sorry, that is my dog lapping up his water in the background. And I think that we don't need to be boxed into what how the state statute, if we're going to reject the state statute, we don't need to be boxed into, well, it should be 6 or 8 or 1. We can go outside that box entirely. And I think that tying the size of an ADU to the zone that it's in is not just appropriate or not just okay. I think it's appropriate. I think it really addresses the reasons why we wanted to limit the size, or somebody wanted to limit the size of ADUs to begin with.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just step in. I mean, I think that the public comment has certainly showed that there's a lot of passion for ADUs. I wouldn't argue. I've got, I've got 2 older parents and an older mother-in-law, and, I definitely see the value of them. And again, we'll have to make decisions as to how we want to proceed. But I think that I am personally in favor of retaining control of this, but I think we definitely need to examine this sooner rather than later and come up with a better solution, because I see nothing wrong with the ADUs. I just think we want to make sure that we're doing them in such a way that it makes sense for the town. But yeah, I'm very much in favor of them as well. I think they can be very beneficial.
As far as how we proceed, like a little less immediate than what Bruce was talking about, though. I mean, for us to decide whether to opt in or not, I myself would be uncomfortable making that decision until we'd really kind of clarified what our stance was on ADUs, where we would be going with our regulations, because that would affect my decision one way or the other. And I don't know if that's what we're planning on doing.
So you'd want to know the plan first before we decide whether to go.
We
So
certainly
forward
can
date?
discuss anything we want along these lines. And the sense of what I get is that everybody feels that our current square footage is too restrictive. And that we listened to all of the people who were in favor of us not opting out. Most of them were basing a major part of their concern on the size constraint that we currently have. And I think that we have to close this and finish our decision here before we take up a zone change. But I sense that the sense of the commission is that we should do that, and that we would take up modifying our regs. There are a couple of concerns that come to me. One is that there's a difference between detached and non-detached ADUs. And I think we need to think about the constraints on each of those separately. And they're not provided for in the state statute. So that's another reason to opt out. Any other, how about other opinions? Kevin?
Yeah, we're way ahead of the state on this one, right? We've had ADUs in our regs for a dozen years. So it's not for us. I don't think it's a question of whether we support ADUs or not. We do. So I think the question comes down to who should do the regulation of them. Should it be the town of Simsbury doing it, or should it be the state of Connecticut? And by having the town do it, we can make changes in the future. We can even be more liberal in the state, as we have been in the past. So when they passed that reg at the state level, the law at the state level, I don't think it was intended for towns like Simsbury that had already allowed ADUs. I think they were going after towns that didn't allow them at all. So, I would be in favor of retaining, because I do think there is the right of the neighbors to in a public hearing make their their opinions known, particularly on the detached ones. And it also comes out to, what is the question here? Are we talking about, so you create an ADU, what is the social goal we're going after? Is it really, it's not necessarily for the accessory dwelling for the handicapped child or for grandparents, because what happens after they no longer need it? And then you run into the situation where you're using it like Donna did over the last week, where you're using it as a Airbnb. And does everybody want an Airbnb apartment or second, and next door, and a second dwelling unit next door? So I think it is best left to the town to regulate this versus the state, and that way we can, if the public doesn't agree with the way our reg is, they can always come to us and we can look at making changes. But if it's done at the state level, we don't have that power anymore. So I think there is a benefit to having a Simsbury regulation versus a state reg, because I think we're all supportive of ADUs. That's not the question.
Thank you, Kevin. Melissa?
I just wanted to clarify something. I thought I heard Donna say something about whether we should opt in, and maybe she just misspoke whether we should opt out, but we don't have to opt into the state thing. If we don't do anything, we are in. So it's a matter of, are we going to decide to opt out of the state mandate so that we can decide what's best for Simsbury? And that's obviously something I'm very in favor of.
But I think we need to get all of our reasons. I think Kevin very eloquently stated a lot of them, but I think we need to make them very clear, because it's going to go to the Board of Selectmen for them to make a decision, and theirs is required as well. I myself would prefer to keep this open for a while, because I don't see any reason to change it immediately. We're not faced with making a decision by January 1st. So I think the more opportunity that people get to speak, the better it is, I think. But you guys are the commission, so if you disagree with me, you can make that motion and change it. But
Well, I agree that we'll need a good document or a good motion for this that explains it, so that when it does get to the selectmen, that they know exactly why we did it. And we're not against ADUs in what we are speaking for. So I do think we could hold off until we have a good draft motion in place, rather than trying to do it off the top of our heads tonight, because we are not in.
I think that's fair.
But I do think we do need a good, so they know, because the selectmen will be under pressure because it doesn't sound like we're being supportive of affordable housing by doing this, although ADUs will not increase our numbers for affordable housing. So, people have to understand that too. It doesn't really help us with those stats, because it's not restricted housing. But I do think, we could wait until we have a good solid motion to move forward.
Right. And
No, I was just going to add, I pretty much agree with what everybody is saying. I think the language of this opt-out is unfortunate, because it communicates to the public a totally different idea than what it really means. And I think maybe one of our positions, one of our jobs, is to try to communicate with the public and with the Board of Selectmen that by choosing to opt out, we are really choosing to opt in and make our own decisions for our own town. I also like very much what Melissa said about looking at the different residential zones and how that affects each zone. I think that's a very, really good idea, and one we hadn't really thought about or talked about.
Okay. Any more comments? I would want to continue this public hearing if anybody has objection to that. Bruce, are you okay with that? I lost Bruce. Everybody lose Bruce. God.
I guess that's a no.
Oh, but let's go ahead. I don't sense that people want to close the public hearing.
Right, then I'll move that we continue the public hearing to the next meeting.
I'll second that.
Second by
Donna.
Donna. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? We have 5-0, and maybe Bruce is abstaining. I don't know. But that will keep this public hearing open. And we're okay through January, right, Mike?
Yes,
Okay.
you have time.
Okay. Bruce last time had some problems with his Wi-Fi, so he may be wrestling with that. Okay, the next public hearing is application 2126. Mr. Vice Chairman, could you read the call?
No, I can't. I can't find it. Sorry, I closed that down and I shouldn't have. There we go. Okay, application 2126 of the Simsbury Zoning Commission applicant, Town of. Is this? Are we really the applicants on this?
No, it should be the town of Simsbury. Sorry, I just noticed that too. Town of
Okay,
Simsbury is the applicant.
application 2126 of the Town of Simsbury applicant. Special exception to section 6.3 for development in the floodplains related to parking lot improvements, ADA accessory improvements, and associated drainage improvements for the property located at 22 Iron Horse Boulevard, Assessors Map H09, Block 226, Lot 003A, Zone FP.
Okay. Okay, and I believe that we have some engineering and other people to tell us what's going on and why we should do it.
Yeah, good evening. Jeff Shea, town engineer representing the applicant Town of Simsbury. With me is Tom Daly, who's with SLR International, who's the engineer of record. Our project tonight seeks approval to formalize parking that currently exists down at the Performing Arts Center. The primary thing we're trying to accomplish tonight is to really improve the ADA accessibility to the Performing Arts Center through parking and accessible route improvements, minimizing maintenance of the parking facility, which is a bit of a red herring for our park department to maintain, and also to improve water quality that runs off the site currently. So with that, I'll just turn it over to Tom. He'll get into the details of the proposed improvements.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. And to the chair, is it okay if I share my screen?
Sure.
Okay, great. Let's give it a whirl. Okay, if everybody can see my screen, it should be an aerial photograph.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. For the record this evening, it's Tom Daly. I'm a professional engineer with SLR. As Jeff indicated, we've been had the pleasure to be working with him, the Parks Department, and others to bring forth an application before you this evening to make improvements down at the Performing Arts Center. The graphic before you this evening is just, an aerial photograph. I'm sure everybody on this, it's a well, kind of beloved area for the concerts and everything, but we've all been down there. But for the record, the site is as shown on the aerial. Everything you're seeing this evening will be north pointing left on our graphics. So the parcel is actually, there's multiple parcels down there, but located right in the center is the band shell or the stage. And really we have the parking lot behind there. This zooms in a little bit closer. So to give you an orientation. So we're really talking about the parking lot here and then also by the dog park. So as part of our work, a survey was done. And this is an existing conditions survey. We really have a couple things going on. So as you know, along the bottom of the plan, we have Iron Horse Boulevard. We have the main driveway that comes into the back parking lot. We have the playground that is directly adjacent to Iron Horse Boulevard. And then you really work yourself around the stage and into a parking field. And the parking lot out there today is somewhat of a little bit of a hodgepodge of things. You have areas of pavement, you have areas of compacted gravel, you have some areas with some compacted gravel and some grass growing up. But as Jeff indicated, it's with this gravel surface, and what you can see is the blue areas is where the drainage pattern is. And with that, water flowing across these parking lots, it's somewhat of a constant maintenance item for them as they continue to continue to have to put gravel and maintain and regrade it over time. We're looking to kind of make that maintenance requirement go away. We do have the green lines represent wetlands, which were flagged by a wetland scientist. And then also the site is located in the floodplain, and that's one of the application items we're before you this evening with. So the proposal is really to reorganize the parking lot in a way that it's much more efficient and much more user-friendly. So let's start with Iron Horse Boulevard. First of all, as you pull off of Iron Horse Boulevard, there's some small landscaped islands. What we did was, as part of our plan, is we actually ran a turning movement diagram for fire trucks and bigger trucks and found out that those islands were providing some limitations in terms of those turning movements. So part of this plan, we were going to replace those islands with more flush pavers. So people will still know where the inbound and the outbound lane is, but for any bigger trucks or a fire truck, they'll able to have a much smoother pathway into the back parking lot. Also, part of the project is we're adding bike racks in two locations. One, we're adding bike racks right here, if you can see my cursor, right adjacent to the playground, and then a new crosswalk that links you to the sidewalk on the other side. And then right adjacent to the stage, we're proposing some new bike racks. As Jeff indicated, really ADA accessibility was a really large part of this project. As out there today, if you total sum of all the handicap parking spaces out there, there's approximately 3. With this project, we will be making them 24. So really, we're adding 21 ADA parking spaces on this. So we have some up by the playground, but the largest field is here. We have 14 both van accessible and standard handicap spaces that allow somebody who's going to enjoy the Performing Arts Center a direct access into the field of that. Also, as part of the plan, there is a new bituminous sidewalk that's going in front of the stage area that will provide both ADA accessibility around there, and also it's wide enough that people with disabilities will be able to actually have seating on there. So that's another component. That's really the only component we're really doing on this side, but we have other access. So once again, really kind of enhancing the pedestrian access into the Performing Arts Center. And then we have another 4 spaces over here located in the middle of the parking lot. And then we're adding a handicap parking space over at the dog park. And really what this is designed in a very flush area. So as you know, some of the times they get the large concerts, whether it's Darius Rucker or that, they need to get some large trucks in here for the bigger concerts. And everything we're proposing here is generally flush and flat so that we get great circulation when we're trying to get those concerts going. But then at the same point, once those trucks are gone, it really will function nicely for the other uses in the town. And as Jeff indicated today, there's really no stormwater management out there today. The water just sheet flows. And we do have some fairly important wetland and water resources nearby. These wetlands are interconnected to the overall Farmington River floodplain and watershed. So as part of this application and working with the Wetlands Commission, the Parks Commission, we are actually proposing 3 water quality basins, and that will allow stormwater to sheet flow off the parking lot. It actually goes through a gravel filter strip and into these biodepressions. Essentially, they will be designed as large rain gardens. They'll be planted with native species, and they'll do a great job in terms of filtering that stormwater before it gets to the floodplain and the wetland. One other thing we're doing is we are putting 2 permeable paver strips that are located in the middle of this parking lot. The alignment of this parking and the parking lot are well suited to the fact that we can come across, and really they'll almost look like sidewalks out there when you go out there. But ultimately, they'll actually, as the water sheet flows on the smaller storm events, will percolate in there. There'll be a pipe and an underground system that goes to an oil water separator. So we're really providing an additional water quality feature here. And we really think this is an enhancement over what's out there today, where the water just simply sheet flows right towards the wetlands. And as noted in your call today for the agenda, under your peer review is the review of the floodplain. We're really not doing any major cuts and fills here. Most of the time it's a couple inches here and there, except for excavating for the basins. But I will tell you, we did a cut and fill analysis, and as the normal standard is, we had to show that we provided a net increase in flood storage. So what you see here is red numbers are areas we're lowering the grade, and then the blue areas are where we're raising the grade. So you can see overall, and most of these ones where it's just, it's not even a foot, in these areas we're taking it down an inch. But ultimately, we are showing a net positive of 43 cubic yards of, a net positive of 860 cubic yards of floodplain storage. Now, clearly that's a drop in the bucket in terms of the overall Farmington River floodplain, but we did want to present to you that in fact we are showing a net positive. With that, that's generally an overview. I'm going to back up a little bit, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
Okay, guys.
And I can stop sharing, or I can leave it up, whatever is the commission's desire.
Why don't you leave it up while people
Okay.
ask the question? Kevin?
Well, will there be any striping for, the handicap part, to show where the handicap crosswalks are from their parking spots into the facility itself?
At this time, we're not. It's more of a free flow into here, and they're really crossing here on there. There's not a crossway walk per se, but we can take a look at that.
But is there even is there a ramp there? I mean, is there a sidewalk even? I don't know.
There is not a sidewalk. It really just enters into the field, and there is a sidewalk here. So we'll be proposing a sidewalk in this location here.
Right.
but it's all flush.
Crosswalk getting into that though, shouldn't there be?
Excuse me?
Shouldn't there be a sidewalk, a cross hatch into?
From here to here?
Yeah.
We can take that on. We'll have to take a look at that.
Where is the macadam? Where's the hard surface?
It's all gonna, well, as of today, the area that's crosshatched in here is existing pavement. And then the proposal now is everything would be paved.
What's the extent? The dotted line?
Well, ultimately it's this whole area here. If you can see my cursor running around it.
Yes, I can.
So that would be there. We have designed in a way that I guess there's a proposal maybe in the future to expand the building, but we worked with that group to work around it. But ultimately right now, the limits of the gravel out there, we are not exceeding the limits of the gravel today. We're simply just taking the gravel, organizing it, and then repaving it.
Right. Well, when the graduation is
Yeah.
held there and the parents park in that lot, it's often so dusty that you can hardly see anything.
Yeah, and as Jeff indicated, that's a long term, and then the fact that they keep on putting gravel on it, it's an area that requires too much maintenance. So you'll have a clean, dustless surface for this entire area.
Okay, good.
But we can work with the performance. Commissioner Gray, I obviously, when you get into these areas, they really function in it's not a textbook, right? You really have to talk to the people that work out here every day and know where people come and go. And if there needs to be a crosswalk to funnel people the accessible route, we can work with the town to do that.
Yeah, I was just trying to figure out traffic through here.
Yeah,
And,
you may know better than me if you've been to a concert how people ebb and flow. Now that being, and as you know, there's not a lot of handicap down here before, so that I'm not sure where those people they parked in. Now that we're giving them a good location, maybe we have to take a closer look at how they're going to get into the facility.
Yeah, and do we consider that enough? I mean, what is it? 14 spaces there? It's not quite showing up on mine.
Yeah, well, there's 14 here, there's 4 here, and then overall the whole thing we're at 24, which today I believe there's only 4.
Right. Yeah. Well, there's no doubt that today is.
Yeah, I don't know how you would calculate it because really, people, as you know, with the concerts, people are parking halfway across town. So Jeff, maybe you know how people function on the handicap parking.
Yeah, Tom, we really couldn't accommodate all the handicap parking requirements for a major facility. So what was done was we estimated the number of spaces that were required for the inner seating area, which is for the smaller events to make some reasonable assumption on the number of spaces that we should provide.
Yeah.
And I think it's pretty consistent with what they provide for the events, you know what I mean, for what the demand might be. You know what I mean? It's a fairly good number of spaces.
I think what Jeff's saying is when you have the big concerts, kind of all bets are off. It's a different thing. The only good thing is because it's paved. So even these spaces that aren't striped handicap, they're level, they're flat, and even people with some mobility will have an easy access into it.
And the other point, Tom, we should make is that for those larger events, the Performing Arts Center group could change the pattern of parking to improve efficiency, to work within their operational plan.
Yep.
Now that this is flush and with no obstructions, there are other options for parking layout on a temporary basis for the larger events.
That's right.
Any other comments?
Yeah, so did you meet with the Simsbury Performing Arts group? Like the eastern part of that first group there. I mean, there you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 20 more, 10 more spots there in that first row where you had the 14 accessibles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then you got more east of that, right? Yeah. Okay,
yes, we did have, and Jeff, I know you had thing, but I had 2 Zoom calls with we had a call with Parks Department and the PAC group. But as Jeff indicated, there's no limit of, this whole parking lot is really designed to be flat enough to be ADA. So if demand does, if they get to the concert and they find out they're short, these can easily be restriped to in the future as they work forward.
And Kevin, yes, we have coordinated periodically with the Performing Arts Center Board since March of 2021 on this project. So they're fully aware of, our plans. And keep in mind, this is a town project. This parking facility serves more than the Performing Arts Center. The dog park, obviously, the recreational fields, and the playground area, Rotary Park. So it is a multi sort of use parking facility. And we've had to keep that in mind in terms of how we develop it.
Yeah, no, I do see that, we could expand the designated spots later.
Sure. Yep.
To that.
Pretty easily.
Yeah.
Pretty easily.
Bruce, you got any comments? You're muted.
I gotta get this one off.
We can't hear you, Bruce.
Now, am I muted?
No, you're
Now we
good.
can hear you.
Oh, now I'm unmuted. Okay. I've had network problems and I've been switching networks and switching locations, and I've missed part of the presentation, but I looked at these materials the other day and I'm impressed. Having been there for the Memorial Day event in the rain, I can assure anyone who hasn't had the enjoyment of being there in the rain that parking area is not a pleasant experience on a rainy day. Yeah, especially with a lot of cars. So I think you've done well, and it's a good plan. So I don't have any questions.
I will note is we had a really good experience and got a positive referral and an approval from the Wetlands Commission on this project.
Great.
Good. Anything from Ann or Diane?
The only thing that I would say is that I'm delighted to see the gravel parking areas disappear. Even if you're not a handicapped person, anyone who has problems walking or might be using a walker or just needs to hang on to somebody, that gravel is pretty tough. And I'm delighted that it's going to be paved over.
Good. Diane?
I echo what Ann says. I would just say, it's not just going to benefit the Performing Arts Center. Obviously, it's going to benefit all the folks that use all the other facilities, such as the dog park and the trails back there. So I think it's a great thing. I'm glad it's long overdue.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, are we ready to close the public hearing?
No.
Well, do we have any public audience for this?
Do we have any public audience? Bruce or Mike, do we have any comments from the public?
No, we did not.
And I don't think we have anybody who wants to speak. Is there anybody there who wants to speak to this application? Hearing none.
Okay, then I'll move that we close the public hearing for application 2126.
Second.
Second by Diane. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay, it's 6-0. It's closed. Okay, thank you very much, guys. The next order of business here is application 2123. Does anyone want to make a motion to rearrange our agenda so that we consider the application 2124 and let Jeff and his people finish?
Fine with me.
Okay, so Bruce, you will make a motion?
Yes, I'll make that motion.
We have a second. Second by Kevin, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it carries 6-0. We're moving application 2124 for consideration. Okay. Mike, how are we doing with our criteria?
So this one, because it's a application pursuant to the floodplain regulations, we're specific to your floodplain standards, which Tom Daly did a great job of demonstrating. There's a net gain in storage. Also, he refers in the engineering report that it's not an adverse effect to equal conveyance, which is the other standard you need to review. So from a floodplain management standpoint, they've demonstrated compliance to the regulations. And that's the only, we don't have to go through the normal special exception criteria because this is specific to a floodplain application.
Okay. Okay, any comments from the commissioners? We have a staff report that contains a draft motion.
You ready for that?
You have it?
Are you ready? I'll
I'm
make
ready.
a motion.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve application 2126 of the town of Simsbury applicant. Special exception pursuant to section 6.3 for development in the floodplain related to parking lot improvements, ADA accessory improvements, and associated drainage improvements for the property located at 22 Iron Horse Boulevard. Assessors map H09, block 226, lot 003A, zone FP. Special exception approval is subject to the following conditions. One, special exception is not valid until notice of grant is filed on the town of Simsbury land records with the office of town clerk. Two, provide 2 sets of Mylar and 2 sets of paper sets of the final plans for signature by the chairman. One is to be filed on the land records and one is to be filed with the engineering department. 3, administrative zoning permit is required for site plan for site work within the area of special flood hazard. 4, changes in grading or filling that result in impacts to compensatory storage or equal conveyance within the floodplain is prohibited. Modifications that result in changes require approval from the zoning commission. And 5, the commission authorizes staff to act on their behalf regarding minor changes to utility and landscaping. Requests for said changes are to be made in writing to the planning staff and approved prior to implementation.
Thank you. We have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Bruce. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. Okay, 6-0, it carries. Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Okay. All right, let's go to application 2123 of Iron Horse LLC. Do we have someone here to speak to this application?
Hello, hi, my name is Luke Florian. I'm the applicant, and I have our engineer here, Bart Bove, as well, to review any further questions on the site plan that was submitted.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what changes you're making and why you're making them?
Sure. Yeah. So we're actually we're looking to have 25 convert the motel into 25 apartments. So for that, we need to expand the parking. So I have Bart with Cole Engineering here, who's made several revisions to the site plan to satisfy the requirement for the code for the site plan.
You want me to go ahead and explain the revisions?
Yeah, you might as well.
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, the site is approximately 1.13 acres on Hot Meadow Street. And as Luke mentioned, it's presently an Iron Horse motel. What we're proposing is to convert it into apartments. To do so, the existing parking is inadequate based on the amount of units they have. I believe there's 36 units located on the south side of the site. What we're proposing to do is wrap the parking around to the west side of the site. so that we have adequate parking for our guests, for our residents, and also a few parking spaces for guests, so that we have, I think, approximately 41 parking spaces. That's a copy of the existing survey map that was performed on the site. You can see the parking on the south side of the property with a single driveway going out to Hop Meadow Street, State Highway. And we're proposing to extend the parking to the backside of the site. We were required to get a variance because we are within 10 feet of the rear property line. The reason for the variance was quite simply that if we tried to keep that 10-foot separation from the existing building to the property line, we would have put our edge of our parking lot right up against the building with no room on the deck. So we had a fixed distance between the property line and the building, and we did our best that we could to try to slide the building or the parking area between the back. The parking spaces along the building are going to be standard spaces. There are a group of spaces located along the property line that would be covered by a canopy and would be covered spaces. We've got our dumpster located on the south side of that, so a truck can easily pull up and pick up on the dumpster. And we've got approximately a 6-foot retaining wall that's located off the parking lot that would be between the end of the parking and the property line. We've had discussions with the engineering department. We feel that with the 6-foot high wall, they should be able to build that within that area. At the present time, there is a kind of a wooden fence. There's a pool area behind the building at the present time, which would be removed by, we're probably going to have to remove that fence. That fence is pretty much a privacy fence around for the pool. So we were replacing it with a vinyl stockade fence that would be located up along the property line. We don't feel the construction of the wall is going to take more than a day or two, so that'll go relatively quickly. We had looked at traffic scenarios, and all those driveways are going to be two-way driveways. It was raised the question during the ZBA of can we do one-way traffic and minimize the activity along the property line. Unfortunately, one-way traffic would have directed traffic all the way around the building, and we didn't feel that was desirable. There's not enough room really on the north side of the building to do anything more than parallel parking spaces, and we didn't want to introduce any extra pavement to the front of the building. So we thought it was advantageous to try to get all of our parking within the existing parking lot and the north or the westerly side. So we didn't do anything. Along the north side, we are having an area for tenant picnicking and sitting out on the other side. Stormwater wise, we're collecting all that stormwater on the backside of the site through a couple catch basins. We're directing along the north side of the building, and we're proposing a rather shallow stormwater management area, detention area at the northeast corner of the site. That area drains into an existing pipe that was pretty much extended just for the driveway for the existing parking lot. So what we're proposing to do is to connect into that pipe with the stormwater management area. We've worked with engineering staff on that. We think we've got it right. The intent is a dry pond. It's not going to be a wet pond. We're anticipating the elevation to be above the 100-year or the seasonal high groundwater. So we've created that thing and noted a wildflower seeding for the bottom of that pond. So that'll be low maintenance and relatively shallow. The landscaper's got some landscaping around the outside perimeter to keep people from wandering in. We will be rebuilding the southerly parking lot and rebuilding the drainage in the area. We're including 2 handicap spaces along the front entrance, which is on the westerly side of the building. That will be reworked from its present configuration. And we're basically using the original utilities into the building. There is a gas main that has to be relocated slightly, just that presently would run through the detention area. But we're going to modify that so that is just routed around the detention area. And again, we feel it's a total upgrade to the site. We're not removing any of the vegetation or woods on the southerly side of the site or the left side of the site. and we're not removing any fencing or anything on the north side. And we're replacing the vinyl fencing to the west side. So essentially, we're working within the confines of our site, and we feel it's a good project for the town, and it will be advantageous for the town to have this type of use in the center as opposed to having a motel, which seems to be more transitory now than day to day as was originally intended.
Mike, there's some photogrammetric drawings that were in place. What's the story with those?
So are you, there's a few things. There's a photometric plan that was submitted along with the light fixture details for the site. There's also a few 3D renderings, if you want me to put them up, of what it'll look like.
I don't know, Commission want to see them, or we have them in their packet?
You have them in your Dropbox.
Yeah, no, I was just wondering what the photogrammetric situation was. The town engineer's concerns, have they been alleviated?
Yeah, we had his original comments back early in the month. We responded with some revisions, and we had a staff Zoom call on the 1st, and we resubmitted everything on the 2nd. So I haven't heard anything back, and I assume those comments have been satisfied.
And
You have Jeff
review?
here.
Right.
Design review actually gave a positive referral this 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
But you have Jeff here maybe to speak, because there was a few items just to make sure we're wrapped up. And if there's anything that has to be incorporated in the final plans, that we could have those incorporated. Jeff, I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No, that's fine. And Bart, I was out last week, so I didn't, just catching up today.
Yeah, I understand.
And Dan is on vacation, so we didn't have a chance to cross. But I did not see the photometric plan. Our concern is just, again, it's not overlit. There's no spillage onto the other property, being that it's a pretty dense area. And also color. We are concerned that the color should match the color of our street lights. So we don't have, yellowish lights on site and white lights in the street right away. So it was just an aesthetic thing because it's the center zone. We're a little bit sensitive to that. So I haven't seen that. If you could just send that on to us, we could pick that up as part of the building permit.
Yeah, I think that was submitted as part of the plans. To be honest with you, I did not prepare that. They had a lighting expert propose that. And I know this site is very difficult to model. They might have showed us a slight amount of leakage on the west side, but I think the problem is trying to model that carport type arrangement and how that light is going to shine down off the carport as opposed to up and out. But we can get that stuff, and I don't think there's a problem in trying to get the coloration of the lighting to match.
Because there was some concern on the south side, I believe, property line, correct, earlier in the
I think that's
process?
I think that was corrected. And again, there are some rather large trees on that side that probably the software the company used probably didn't adequately address the vegetation in there.
Yeah, and your lights seem to be, they're far enough away from the property line. We just want to see it confirmed on a photometric plan. And the other concern was the retaining wall. As you know, I had some comments on that. We can pick that up as part of the building permit as long as you guys submit stamped and sealed drawings for that design, which
Correct.
I'm sure your supplier can provide.
Yeah, we are specifying a specific wall type to be constructed. We're not anticipating, cast in place type wall. We're talking about a pre-engineered wall system that should be able to be fit within that limited space. So we can work with that.
And the aesthetics of that too, I believe that's going to be colorized, correct?
Correct.
So it'll blend better within the background of your site. Otherwise, I think it's a good plan.
Okay.
Yeah, I have questions. What is the total impervious surface after it's built out with the additional parking area?
You had to ask that question, right?
Well, it's missing on the chart, so I didn't know if...
It's in the drainage calculations. You might have ballpark figure as opposed to a detailed figure. I just gotta check that. Find those. I can't find it. I can't find it. I have to have it out. If you give me a minute, I don't know if there's other questions I can.
Well, the other one, when you have it covered, will you be doing anything with solar on that?
Luke can answer that.
I may be doing something with solar. So we're exploring those options. And then we may be doing something with electric car charging as well. So yeah, there are a couple of the things that we're looking into as we're taking all building and redevelopment costs into account. So
yeah. And the third thing is what is the lighting? How are we doing it? Is it all? It looked like it was off of the building. Is there any standalone lighting?
There are wall packs, and there are also some standalone poles that'll be placed along the. Basically, the poles are going to be along the southerly side of the building facing in, and there'll be 2 wall packs in the back, and there'll be 2 wall packs on the side. My guess would be, and I haven't confirmed this with Luke, there's probably going to be some downlighting within the carports also to help illuminate those cars within the space.
correct. Yeah, it'll all be downlighting. So we can obviously keep it all in.
And I didn't say the standalone the lights as far as whether they met our standards for the downtown area. And Mr. Glidden could answer that because I don't see it in the plans here.
There was a cut that we provided the staff with the, I believe there was a cut with the photometric information that was provided.
Well, I see stuff from Envision, but that's, light packs, but I don't see anything for the standout.
The standalones are going to have similar fixtures. It's going to be a very simple aluminum pole on a base. There is going to be elevated and pointed down. Those Envision lights are either building mounted or they can be pole mounted.
All right, so you aren't using our standard for the downtown area.
No, the information I got was that there were going to be similar types of lightings. Luke can address.
Yeah, we'll keep it congruent with what's downtown. So all that stuff will definitely. We'll
it's kind of like they're little, lantern lights. You've seen them.
Of course.
I was surprised I reviewed it and talk about that.
They exist on site right now, the lantern lights, the current fixtures.
Okay, thanks.
And we get an answer on the coverage?
Yeah, I'm down to 1 monitor. I'm not used to working with a single monitor, so please forgive me.
Anyone else have other questions? Donna?
Maybe I missed it, but do we know what the carport looks like?
I'm going to refer that to Luke.
So we don't have any renderings of the carport yet. So depending on where our development budgets, where the final number is, we may or may not do the carport. We did want to get it in the site plan approval, so we can add that as a feature to our residents, down the road if we don't do it immediately. So, but to answer, I don't have any renderings currently, but it would be consistent with the building architecture in general.
Actually, maybe you can go over the facade changes you're making. Right. Aren't you changing some of the facade? Are you changing the outlook, what the building looks like?
Yeah, so we presented to the design review board that we are keeping the existing stone that's on the outside of the building, and we have a complementary vinyl siding that's going on. It's an earth tone. There you go. You have one of the renderings. And then we have all the windows that are going to have black trim, which actually is going to be a little bit thicker. So be more of a reveal. And then all the balconies are going to be replaced with a nice aluminum railing, more of a modern look with some accent colors to the decks. And I think there are samples down at the down at Town Hall as well.
I'm trying to find the number on the drainage report, but essentially that site now is probably got about 45 to 48% impervious coverage. And we're increasing that to about 65% impervious coverage with additional parking. And again, that difference in the impervious area is being made up by the retention area. We're going to have a net zero increase in runoff from the present site. Per staff's comments, we have included the area to the west of the site. That precipitated a slight change or increase in the size of the detention area. But we've accommodated that additional area to the west into our drainage report. And we've also increased the height slightly. Staff required a foot of freeboard in the detention area for a 100-year storm. So we just made some minor changes to accommodate that as well.
What does our reg say about lot coverage?
In downtown, and in the Simsbury Town District, I'm not downtown center district, I'm not sure what it is.
It's 10% open space.
That's all.
'Cause yeah, it's different than the rest of the town. We have basically we'll have a more urban setting, so we allow for greater coverage of the lots.
Okay, so it could
So it can
be,
be up to 95% then.
And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to keep that green, especially in the front of the building and basically on the north side of the building too. So we are adding extra pavement to the rear. Remember, there's also a pool area back there with patio. So to a certain extent, a portion of that is also impervious from the standpoint of runoff. So we've taken all that stuff and collected it and directed it around the building. So again, and plus you've got that whole wooded buffer to the south of the site as well. So,
any other questions, Ann?
No, the only question I would have has nothing to do actually with the application request, but how many bedrooms are you planning with the apartment? Are they 1-bedroom studios, 2 bedrooms?
Sure. Yeah, good question. So there'll be 4 studios and 21 1-bedrooms.
So that probably would not impact the schools at all, most likely.
No, probably not. No.
Thank you.
Diane?
You're
Sorry.
muted.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, no, actually, I don't have any further questions. Sorry.
Bruce?
No, I'm good too, Dave.
Okay.
Actually, just for the record, could you say how the size of the 1-bedroom units?
Sure. The 1-bedrooms are going to range from 450 to up to 720 square feet.
I use that for the ADU question if I asked that. Yeah.
But it's the 450 is 1 bedroom. It's not a studio, right?
So yeah, what we have, yeah, correct. It's a studio. When you see the layout, yeah, when you were talking about the ADU stuff, I almost wanted to unmute myself and try and chime in, but you can make a very beautiful 1-bedroom, 450 square feet, and it feels much larger. So the way these are laid out, and you will all see our master plan pretty soon.
Yeah, well, I think that we've all forgotten though, it wasn't more than, was it a month ago, we approved a 450 square foot ADU for a family in West Simsbury. So
yeah,
there are people who believe 450 square feet is adequate, but it may not fit everybody's needs.
Actually, wasn't that 350?
Pardon me?
I thought it was even smaller. But
No, it was 450.
Was
yeah.
it 450?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not saying it was ideal, but that's what they wanted and that's what they did.
Okay. Are we ready to make a motion? We have a staff report.
Bruce, you going to read it?
I don't have that one. For some
All right,
reason.
I'll do it then.
Yeah.
I move to approve application 2123 of the Iron Horse LLC and co-owner Freedom Property LLC, applicant Luke Florian, agent, application for a site plan amendment pursuant to 4.2 the Simsbury Center Code for the conversion of a motel to an apartment complex located at 969 Hot Meadow Street, Zone SC1. Site plan amendment conditions for issuance of administrative zoning permit, building permit. 1, provide 2 sets of Mylars and 2 sets of paper sets and 2 sets of paper sets, okay, of the final plan for signature by the chairman, 1 to be filed on the land records and 1 to be filed with the engineering department. General conditions of approval: 1, an administrative zoning permit is required for the project. 2, pre-construction meeting is required. Applicant is to schedule the meeting with applicable town staff before the site work begins. 3, erosion and sediment control measures are to be reviewed and approved by the code compliance officer prior to the start of work. Applicant is to provide staff a 24-hour notice for scheduling an erosion and sediment control inspection. And 4, the commission authorizes staff to act on their behalf concerning minor modification or changes to the approved plan as it relates to landscaping, grading, lighting, and utility layouts. Requests for modifications are to be made in writing and approved by staff prior to implementation in the field.
Do you hear a second?
I'll second it.
Oh,
And I
Looks
think
like-
you said it. Any further comments? All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Opposed? Abstain? It carries 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much. You have a good evening.
Thank
You
you.
too.
All right, take care.
Okay, no action on the next item. We have application. Oh, we did that one. Okay. We have application 2128. Just,
Mr. Chairman, both for 2127 and 2128, unfortunately, the design review board had to cancel their meeting this evening, so they did not meet and discuss these 2 applications. So staff is asking that the commission actually table both applications, 2127 and 2128. The applicants are not here tonight. They'll be here, we meet in 2 weeks on December 20th.
okay. Can I hear a motion to table those 2 applications?
I'll move that.
Okay, Bruce moved.
It's long silences leave me undone, so, okay.
Okay, do I have a second?
I will second.
Second by, who was that, Donna?
Diane.
Diane. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Okay, carry 6-0. So those 2 applications are tabled. Okay, then we have the proposed 2022 zoning commission schedule. In looking at that schedule, it appears for the first time that there's a meeting scheduled on the first Monday in November. And I look back over the last 5 years or 6 years, we have not met on the day before election. So I would suggest that we remove that.
Good thought. Yeah.
So could I have a motion to accept the meeting schedule for next year with the removal of a meeting on November 7th?
I'll make a motion to accept it with that one exception on November, to change that to no meeting.
Okay.
And I'll second it.
Second by Ann. Any more discussion? I think I checked Hanukkah and all those other things, Rosh Hashanah, and they don't fall on those dates. So I think town staff had already checked that.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No, Abstaining? None. Carries 6-0. So our schedule for next year is approved. Short-term rental regulation. Mike gave us an updated draft of the revised ADUs. I'm sorry, short-term rentals. And we need to schedule a public hearing to discuss with the public this regulation change. And then for us to make it, we have to then vote. So can we have a motion to schedule a public hearing?
All right, so this will be the zoning commission will be the applicant for a change to the zoning regs to allow
ADUs.
ADUs.
I'm sorry, not ADUs, short-term rentals.
Short-term rentals, okay, yeah. All right, so we don't have a motion yet, so staff will be designing us a motion.
I think we ought to have a conversation about the content here first. Or do you want to just have a motion and then during discussion, we'll have some of, some of the
Okay,
points,
let's
the format.
and then we can discuss it.
Well, I'm a little unclear on I can remember when we were trying to figure out how we would regulate short-term rentals. And the town attorney reportedly said that his advice was that it should be regulated by the Board of Selectmen by ordinance. And so we went down that road and we've got an ordinance. And now first thing, it's back to the zoning commission to make up a regulation. And
No, what I recall, Bruce, is that we decided that an ordinance was the only way to control nuisance uses quickly.
Right, I'm for
But we still had to have a use permitted in our regs for short-term rentals. Okay, so we asked the selectmen to put together an ordinance, and what the town attorney said is don't make a change in your zoning regs until the ordinance is done. Now the ordinance is done, and we're catching up with our zoning regs. That's the way I understand it.
Yeah, we still need to provision them because we don't have a reg that allows them to exist. And we could actually decide to restrict where they are allowed.
Right.
But so we need to add them to our definition and then we had to, allow them.
Right.
And do we have, I don't know if we want to give Mike guidance as to where we think they should, should they be allowed everywhere or?
Mike has a draft here.
So my draft, I put in there just as of right in all the residential zoning districts. Because if someone owns a home and they want to have a short-term rental under the ordinance, they're going to go through the permitting process with the ordinance. However, in the commercial zoning districts, I put it as site plan approval for the use, just because it's most likely a mixed use situation if it's zoned business or industrial. So I just want to make sure that, from a parking standpoint, we're okay with whatever the uses that are there on the site. But I mean, that's still an administrative process. Just the residential zones, it would be as of right. No permit is required.
But doesn't that complicate, what's their status if they don't behave and their permit is revoked?
So because let's say it's a house first, the residential zoning districts, it will not complicate matters in the sense, obviously, the only way they're getting approval is through the ordinance. From the business standpoint,
right.
The same thing. I would feel that permit, that license that they get to use to do the use, it's still, if they lose it, they can't go back. But at least the use is established at the site. So let's say a new owner comes in down the road at some business zoned property, B1, B2, or industrial, and they say, hey, I want to revive the use, then the site can support it.
They have to get the permit from the town.
Right, but I guess I'm thinking this is could be deep water trying to enforce this thing, because if we make it by right, I don't know how, but I'm not the lawyer here, so I could see trouble ahead.
It's a use that's permitted as of right, provided, and it says in the draft, that Mike said, provided they get a permit or a license from the town.
Yeah, and has the town attorney approved this draft? Reviewed it anyway?
I haven't shared it with him yet. I had shared it before a public hearing with him.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, we have discussed this in the past, so this is
Okay.
Bob won't be surprised by this.
Okay. The other thing is, I was looking at it, I'm, somewhere in the thinking that's gone on between ordinance and this, what happened to the insurance requirement? We were talking about at least $1 million of liability insurance, and it's in the thing that Board of Selectmen approved, calling for a figure to be written in. Now, unfortunately, I think they voted with no figure in it. Does that mean there is going to be an insurance requirement to operate a short-term rental because it got forgotten or something? I mean, it's in the letter that the town attorney sent.
But that's not a use that we would regulate.
Well, I'm not sure how much are we, in our regulation, our strategies don't repeat any of the requirements for the permit. It's not our business. Okay.
Yep.
All right, then so far, neither the ordinance or this will announce that there should be insurance. It will.
But we should point that out to the selectmen.
It's fallen through the crack, I suspect. But
Okay, but this draft went with our first missive to the zoning or to the selectmen,
yeah,
saying this is what we intended to do.
yeah.
So if you want to hold off until Mike gets an opinion of the town attorney, we can do that, but
No, we could tweak it before when we announce the public hearing, we have to have something to publish right then.
right.
With the announcement of the public hearing. And so, I guess, I don't know, we don't have any flexibility. If we announce a public hearing, we've got to put this document up and say, this is what the hearing's about.
We have
Changes after that, but they have to be pretty minor.
Yeah, we actually have a little flexibility under statute. We could finalize the language up until 10 days prior to the hearing. Because at 10 days, a copy of the regulations has to be filed with the town clerk's office pursuant to 87D of the general state statutes.
Yeah,
So
okay.
we have, if you were to schedule a public hearing tonight, and let's say we talk about this in 2 weeks and we decide we want to change something, we have time.
Okay,
Okay, so we'd schedule a public hearing in January then.
Yes.
That clear? Everybody understand that? Do you agree with it? Okay, can I have a motion to schedule a public hearing, and what is our meeting in January? On our
Well, we can
schedule-
actually do that at the next meeting, can't we?
Pardon?
We can actually do it at the December
December.
20th.
Yes, we can. We can.
I prefer that you schedule it tonight. Just
Okay.
because we got to do 2 referrals. This has to be referred to the planning commission
Right,
and also to the capital regional government.
okay,
So
so,
All right, well, then I move that we propose, that we plan that we will address the short-term rentals at a public hearing at our first meeting in January.
does that give us enough time, Mike? It's the January 3rd meeting.
if you schedule tonight, yes, I have enough time to do with the referrals. And we have time because we have a meeting between now and then if we have to tweak, if we want to tweak something. And I'll
Okay.
also talk to Bob DiCrescenzo about it too.
Okay. So, did you make a motion?
I did.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Second by Donna. All in favor?
aye.
Opposed? Okay, and abstain. Okay, it clears 6-0. Thank you. But Mike, you'll take this language to Bob and get it cleared, make sure he's not having heartburn over it. We could always cancel the public hearing if
Yeah.
he had a problem. Okay, the sign regulations.
Well, just one more moment on that, Dave.
Sure.
I can't resist that my concern about, going forward on this limited view of the thing is that we're going to miss an opportunity in the public hearing and the communication process to make sure people know that there's a list of requirements as long as your arm for that ordinance permit. But we're not going to speak to any of that. We're just speaking to, what we have in this document. I'm not complaining, but I think the communication process could be fuller on the ordinance and the requirements for the permit.
Well, the ordinance has been, they had a public hearing on it. We could make sure that the draft of the public hearing or the ordinance is attached to our minutes in that meeting, so that if somebody was looking at it,
Yeah,
they could
that
reference it.
sounds like a good idea. Yeah. Okay, anyway.
No, it's a good point, Bruce. Okay, sign regulations. We're waiting and have not heard anything from the Chamber of Commerce, and I've talked to them quite a few times. Anyway, I think we should proceed. The only feedback that we've gotten so far, we don't have a public hearing yet, but Main Street very strongly wanted us to make sure that we did not permit internally lit signs. And now that Mike's in the Finance Commission, there's no more, there's less support for internally lit signs.
We do want to support it. I mean, I'm not opposed to supporting them in a district near Route 44.
Okay, well, I would say, I think that's a good idea to have it in there for 44 and not for the rest of the town. And we've got, do we have a draft that states that, Mike?
No, but I could draft a quick regulation, basically say the internally lit signs will be allowed in parcels that are zoned B3 and located within 750 feet of Albany Turnpike. So basically it would be Simsbury Commons, Hoffman Auto Group, and the Staples Plaza and Car Wash. And that's it. Those are the parcels that would be allowed to have internally lit signs.
That sounds right to me.
Yeah, it would be both sides of Route 44. So Staples, yeah, you said that. Okay.
Yeah, because they're all zone B3. So I think that's the key also thing is we're tying it to a zoning district in addition to the geographic location by Albany Turnpike. And the 750 feet is the measurement from the center line on Route 44 to Stop and Shop's front doors.
Didn't know you had a tape measure that long.
Okay. All right. So Mike, if you do a draft for us, we can take that up next meeting and then schedule a public hearing then. So the public hearing would be likely February 3rd.
Yes.
And that'll get the sign regulations off our plate.
Well, we had a draft, but there were, it included internally lit signs in places. So that needs to be excluded from the draft.
That's what Mike is going to fix.
All right, just fix that before we go into the public hearing.
Right. We'll look at that next week and make sure, our next meeting, and make sure we're both happy. We're all happy with it.
I'm happy.
That'll get that one going. We thought that was going to be an easy one. Okay. Anything more, Mike?
No, I don't have any additional business for tonight.
Okay. Since Mike is gone, who's going to take his place?
Well, one thing we do need to schedule, because we didn't do it 2 years ago, is we need to be reelected. Within the board, we need a chair and vice chair. I don't know. Bruce can probably tell us what the rule is for that, but we haven't had
Yeah, our rules are the same. Our bylaws, or we don't call them bylaws, we call them rules of practice.
Rules of procedure.
Rules of procedure. That for the officers, it's the same language as the planning commission. That those two officers serve at the pleasure of the commission. And there have to be, the participation in election of officers is only open to the 6 regular elected members, meaning that alternates aren't allowed to participate. So it's just the 6 regular members who are eligible. And there needs to be a quorum, and there needs to be 4 affirmative votes for a nominated commissioner to be actually elected and appointed. So if there were, say, only 4 people at the meeting and 3 were affirmative votes, that's not enough.
Right.
So there's no change where the nominated person is not elected. Let me put it like that. The nominated person is not elected unless there are 4 votes in the affirmative.
Right.
Now, I recall a time, actually in 2009, where there was a motion by one of the commissioners to combine I didn't agree with it, but they combined the 2 positions in 1 vote with the suggestion that they work as a team. So why not 1 vote? And that's what they did, but that's not in our bylaws. The bylaws imply, and they're fairly direct, that there's 2 votes. One for what now is a vice chairman, used to be the secretary, and the other would be the chairman.
Right, but
So-
I thought traditionally that they did that election though after each municipal election, right?
I think there was a time when that was fairly regular, but I know, well, I just finished a 4-year term and I was a little surprised when I came aboard. It was like, there was no mention of it. We just sort of.
That's why I thought we should mention it. So if we just put it on the agenda for the next meeting, Mike.
Why don't we do that? Yeah. I think there's an advantage to having some sort of limits. I mean, I know there have been, when we look back at the history of the zoning commission, there are some people who've had the role for a long time and there are others who haven't. And I think, it's a good thing to have a look at it periodically.
Okay.
So next, when's the next meeting? What was the date?
December 20th.
December 20th.
Okay. December 20th. Election of officers.
I'll get sworn in before then.
Okay.
Well, little housekeeping. I'll make sure it happens.
You're probably not the only one because you have to sign a register. And when I signed this morning, I don't know that anybody else had signed, but I did get a complete book. Might be multi-page, but anyway, yeah. No,
I'll
I
get it
didn't.
done.
I was anxious about it. I would have liked to have had the excuse that I was traveling, but no, I'm weary of COVID. And I just thought, yeah, we have a new grandson that spends a lot of time at our house, an infant, and we're extra cautious. Although everybody's vaccinated except him, yeah. So it was easy to just go down to the town clerk's office
Nice.
when I wasn't traveling. Yeah, it only takes a minute. She reads from a typed statement. It's like 2 sentences or 3 sentences, and you go, I do, and sign the register, and that's it.
I'm not sure if I've ever made the ceremony. I always end up just going to town hall. So
Much
I'll get
easier.
down there.
I've
What?
never.
It's much easier. I did the ceremony today.
Oh, did you?
Well, in 2005, my friend Tom Vincent, who was then the first selectman, invited me to lead the Pledge of Allegiance as an officer of the American Legion Post at the 2005 swearing-in ceremony. And I was really kind of taken aback at how many people were in the audience, the participants being sworn in, plus all their close friends and neighbors and relatives and stuff. It was a nice thing. That was the last one.
Well, I will say
Each time after that, I've been down to the town hall, to the town clerk's office.
the high school groups that performed today, they sang the national anthem and Hallelujah, and they were outstanding.
Oh, really?
I went to it just for that.
Oh, that would have been worth it.
That was more entertaining, I'm sure, than Bruce Elliott leading the Pledge of Allegiance.
Well, Eric Wellman did that, and
2005.
the lieutenant governor was there to give the oath the new selectman.
Oh, really? Oh, nice.
Nice.
Great. Good.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion to
Yeah,
adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
All
Second,
right.
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? And no abstentions. Okay, so we're adjourned. Thank you very much.